This is why I am so bullish on 2024. I have a story to share today that will rock your world and explain and reveal why I have never been more optimistic, never more bullish on being a husband, on being a father, on being an entrepreneur or a community leader ever before in history than now, today in 2024. My name is Michael McLean. I am an ex-minor professional hockey coach turned 8-figure entrepreneur. I shoot these ugly, broken iPhone videos every morning and send them to my email list. If you'd like to receive these daily videos, I don't take any days off. I don't miss 365. Go to brassballsvideo.com, brassballsvideos.com, put in your name and email, and I will send you one of these brand new broken iPhone walking and talking adventures every single morning at 6 a.m. So why the hell is yours relentless so bullish on 2024 when all the so-called experts and the media and big brother government and big tech and all these supposed wet behind the ear gurus are talking about how tough things are? We're in a possible recession, heading towards a possible depression. There's all kinds of challenges in the world, potential wars, disasters. It's just a fire hose every day. It's a fire hose every day of negativity, bad news, rat poison for our minds, our bodies, and our souls. Why the hell do I have the audacity to look at 2024 and say, there has never, ever, ever been a better time in history to be a husband, a father, an entrepreneur, or a community leader? Where the hell do I get the brass balls to say such a thing in 2024? Am I not supposed to be defeated? Am I not supposed to be, radioactive and having toxic thoughts like 99%? I get this question all the time, Michael. What's it like to be a father to an 11-year-old daughter in 2024? What's it like to run a small business in 2024? What's it like to be married in 2024? The questions never, ever end. But I disappoint with my answer by always saying I've never been more bullish on being all those things today. I mean, we live in the greatest time in history to be alive. We're absolutely awash in wealth, abundance, and opportunity like never before. There's never, ever been a greater time to be alive in history than right now. And I got what I call a nice mind vitamin earlier today when I received an email from the 16-year-old young man that I've been mentoring on and off for the last year and a half. His name is Josh Peters. I mentioned him in a video last week. Josh is now a 16-year-old kid, entrepreneur, student, brother, son, author. He wrote his own book last year. And to make a short story long, I started working with Josh almost 2 years ago when we were discussing business and my career and how to become an entrepreneur and all these great things. And I started working with Josh. I had very little to do. All I had to do was recommend some books for him to read, some newsletters for him to study. And then it's up to you to be coachable, right? So, I mean, even he surprised me this morning when I read this email. Last week I had a phone call with Josh for the first time in almost a year, and we were talking about, marketing and sales. If I was 16 years old in his shoes, what's the one thing I would do if I was an aspiring young entrepreneur like him? And I gave him my biased and unpopular advice. And I'm pleased to say that the guy took it to heart. He's coachable and he does what he's told, and he's going to get the results that nobody else is going to get over time because he's so coachable. He's got an open mind, he's got the right mindset, the right attitude, and he's got the work ethic to back it all up. So I said to Josh on the phone last week, 7 days ago, what have you done in the last 7 days? What has your teenager done in the last 7 days? What has your marketing director or your executive assistant done in the last 7 days? So I get this email and I recommended on the phone 7 days ago. I said, Josh, you need to build an email list. That's it. That's the one thing you need to do every day for the next decade. Do you know how long a decade seems for a kid who's 15, now 16? You mean I have to do this for the next 10 years? You know, I'm only 16 years old, and I'm like, that's the thing to do. Well, what about podcasts? No. What about, YouTube? No. What about, X or Twitter? No. What about Instagram no. Instagrunt? No. LinkedIn? No. Facebook? No. You asked me for one thing, one piece of advice. One, not two. Build your email list. Build an email newsletter list. Newsletter is a more sexy word for it, but for the last 20 some years, I've been building an email list. Now the gurus and the so-called experts, they call these newsletters. You get them all the time, right? Through Substack, through Beehive, but it's an email list. It's a caveman email list. So I said to Josh, it doesn't matter what you do to build your audience, but now we're not living in the entertainment world or society anymore. We're living in the information. We're now living in the entertainment society. We live in the age of entertainment. And the equity in your business is the audience that you build. And I said, do not make the mistake of thinking that if you build an audience on anti-social media, if you build an audience on Twitter, or you build an audience on somebody else's platform, you don't own that audience. That audience can disappear in one day, in 1 second. And you've seen it with anybody that's controversial. They wake up and their following of millions of people is gone. It's gone. So they built their business on quicksand instead of cement. So I said to Josh, what do you want to do? Do you want to build your business on quicksand, or do you want to build it on cement? Of course, he said he wants to build the foundation on cement. I said, well, email is the cement. So we talked a little bit about this, and he was going to go think about how to build his audience, whether to shoot daily videos like I do. And I said, find something that you enjoy that you're going to do every day. You got to be able to apply massive consistency, CNC, consistency equals compounding, and do it every day for the next decade. The next decade, without any results. You can't get frustrated, you can't get distracted, you can't get angry, you can't get upset. You just have to do it for the next decade, whatever you decide to do. So here, 7 days later, I get this email and he says, I've decided that works best for me is to start an email newsletter. Boom! That, in my opinion, is the perfect decision for him. Doesn't have to worry about shooting fancy videos or getting good on video or any of that stuff. What he's done is he's set up a landing page that will now start capturing people's emails. And he's done it through Substack. The link is below. You can see it literally took him 5 minutes to set up that landing page. And that landing page will now collect emails for him for the next 5, the next 10 years. He doesn't need to change a thing. He can just change his age on there every year. 5 minutes to set that up. That's how long it would take your teenager or your your marketing director or anybody that could do this for you. And a caveman, a tech caveman, could actually set up a simple email capture landing page on Substack, on Beehive, in Berserker Mail, which I use, any of those platforms, 5 minutes. And I have guys in my email millions, guys in my masterminds who are still working almost a year and a half later at getting that done. And you can literally do it unless you're a total tech dinosaur like me. I can't do it, but I have people that can do it in 5 or 10 minutes. So kudos, tip of the hat to Josh. He got that up going in 5 or 10 minutes. Now, most important, over the next 10 years, every day, every week, every month, every year, build your email list. When in doubt, build your email list. When he's on Twitter or X or Instagram or Flakebook or any of these social media platforms, that's fine. But all roads should lead to what? Sending them to grow his email list. Sending everybody to that link so that they can join his what? His righteous email list, his newsletter. That's the bait. Well, people don't want to give me their email. I hear that excuse all the time from business owners. Well, call it an email newsletter. That's what it is. Call it an email newsletter where you give free information, free tips, you run some contests. Sometimes there's some gifts, sometimes there's giveaways. You make it fun, you make it infotaining, and it's actually an email newsletter. Email list, email newsletter, email, it's all the same thing. But all roads should send in your business, in your kids' business, should all run to growing your email list. So I'm sure Josh is like my 11-year-old daughter. My daughter doesn't do any screen, she doesn't do any tech, but she does one thing. She's growing her dog walking email list, and she has 19 people on her email list. She also has $2,000 in her bedroom, hidden somewhere. I think it's in her bookshelf, I'm not sure. She's 11 years old. She's made $2,000 cash walking dogs over the last year. And she's got it stuffed away in her bedroom, and she has a 19-person email list. On that list are her 2 or 3 clients, plus some people that are prospects that have raised their hand. An email newsletter list for dog walking. She's 11 years old. What's your 11-year-old doing? Spending their day on an iPad, searching for music, downloading apps, manufacturing mental illness? Build an email list. So I'm really proud of what I saw Josh do, but here's the thing he'll have to understand as a 16-year-old. Hell, it's the thing I have to understand as a 55-year-old. And it's the thing you have to understand as a entrepreneur, a small business owner. Once you put up the landing page, which takes 5 minutes, that's the start. That's the start of the rest of your career. Okay, when I put up the landing page in the insurance business, I had, count them, 0 emails. So I actually put in our staff emails by hand so that I had 5 people on my list. So I started with 5, plus I added my mom and my dad. That was my email list in the insurance business when I started. Fast forward 7, 8, 9 years later, 62,000 people on my email newsletter list. Every time I sent an email out, I made tens of thousands of dollars. Every time I sent out an email to raise funds for the food bank or the library or children's sport in our community, we would raise thousands of dollars for our community. That's the power of having an email newsletter list. But just like Josh, he has to understand that now this is the start. Okay, the landing page, that's simple. That took 5 or 10 minutes. Now he's got to build this list over the next decade. So he's 16. So if he does what he's supposed to here, and he builds this list every single day, no days off, 1, 2, 3 people add the list every day. And it's about massive consistency, and consistency, his list will compound. He has nobody on the list. He probably has his mom and dad like when I started, or his sister or whatever. That's normal. And then tomorrow he'll have one more person or a couple friends or whatever. Maybe you'll join his list if you're smart. And then his list will be a few dozen people. And then eventually his list will be a few hundred people. And then over time, gradually, his list will be thousands of people. But I'm going to tell you one thing right now. This one decision he made to build an email newsletter, if he is consistent over the next 10 years, he will be a multi-millionaire by the time he is 26. Can any university say that for your kid? Can Harvard say that for you? Can Princeton say that for you? Is that what you'll get when you invest $1 million into college or into a university? That your son or your daughter will be a multi-millionaire in the next decade. And it probably won't take that long. But if he writes an email every week, he's going to do it once a week. For the next 10 years, he shows up. He doesn't miss any Mondays. Because if you don't show up, he won't have any success. You build trust with your list by showing up every day. If I don't show up here walking and talking to you every day, why would you trust me? It shows you that I don't have my act together, I don't have my shit together, and that you actually shouldn't trust me. But when I show up every day, 365 days, sick, tired, happy, sad, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, I'm just same thing, day after day, day after day. Pound the rock. You build trust with your audience. So that's a big thing. Now that he's got his landing page up, the work begins. This is the start, not the finish. And most young people and most entrepreneurs, they spend all their time trying to get this landing page up, this page to capture emails, when in fact it should take 10 minutes. And then the consistency starts, the building of the list. And it takes years. Don't start unless you understand it's going to take a decade to do anything worthwhile. So that's the first thing. Now he's got to find ways, whatever he does, whether he's on social media, whether he's speaking to a group maybe down the road, whether he's talking about his book, whatever he's doing, he now has to focus on it being about growing that email newsletter list. So all roads must come back to that link that gets a person to join his list. And he'll tweak things over the years, he'll improve things. But the most important thing is that he shows up every Monday with the newsletter that he promised them. That newsletter doesn't have to be any more than a few items. James Clear and Mark Manson and the people that do the best job with these email newsletters, they're simple 2-page newsletters once a week. That's it. In fact, the less he does, the better. Could be 3 tips for teenagers. It could be 5 tips for teenagers. It could be a story about him going to the gym. It could be a story about something he's struggling with. But the bottom line is simplicity once a week. But he can't miss. He can't show up on a Tuesday because he was sick. He can't show up or disappear for 3 weeks because he broke his collarbone. Because the email list doesn't care about that. They're looking forward, when he builds this relationship, to hearing from Josh every single Monday. Now, if you're a lunatic like me, you show up 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, 365 days a year, for years on end. But you know what? He doesn't have to do that. He doesn't need to complicate his life. This is what I do for therapy. This is what I do for my mental health. This is what I do to service and significance. That's not what he's doing. He just needs to build a solid audience over the next 10 years. Can you imagine waking up when you're 25 or 26 years old and literally you can sit down and write an email. It could be to raise money. It could be to sell your book. It could be to put a mastermind together. It could be to sell your product. It could be to tell a story. It could be to wish somebody a happy Thanksgiving. And you literally write this tiny, simple, plain text email, like I do every day. And you press a button and that email goes to tens of thousands of people. And if he does this right over the next 10 years, he'll have tens of thousands of people on his email list. In the barber shop, I started with 0. The window washing company, I started with 0 emails. The insurance business, almost 0. The hockey business, when I own my own 2 teams, I started with almost 0 emails. And same with this consulting company. I started with 0 emails, put a few of my friends' names in there, and then you build it to hundreds and then thousands. And he has an asset to sell whenever he wants to. Maybe down the road when he's married and has his own family, he may say, I want to get out of the personal development business, or I want to take it easy. And he'll literally be able to sell this email newsletter for tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. It'll all depend on how consistent he's been over the last 10 years. Can you imagine your 16-year-old building an asset like that? Podcasts will come and go. Social media platforms will come and go. Video, landing, all the stuff will come and go. And 10 years from now, email will be just as important, just as unsexy, just as powerful as it is today. Oh, and by the way, in the 10 years it's going to take him to build his audience on his email list, email will come in and out of style 2 to 3 times. Email was like the new shiny object a year ago. You go to Russell Brunson's funnel hacking live seminar and it's like they discovered gravity for the first time. It's like, oh my God, everybody needs an email newsletter. And I was like, what's an email newsletter? I send emails every day of my life. That's an email newsletter. It's amazing, Michael. And of course, every guru now has one, every expert. But already that's a bubble that's getting ready to burst. You can now buy, people are starting, because they're not consistent, right? They don't want to write the newsletter. So for every James Clear, for every Andy Frisella, for every, Sean Whalen, for every Michael McLean, there's 95% of these guys who are good building the list, but they don't want to actually produce the newsletter. So they have no trust. They don't monetize it. It doesn't make them any money. Josh will do the exact opposite. So these email lists are now coming up for sale, these newsletters. They're coming up for sale on sites. You just have to Google any area: marketing, health, fitness, money, markets, basket weaving, candlestick making. It's all right there, and it's all the same. Because these guys who, they chase the shiny object of an email newsletter, they found out that it's work, and now they're gone in the first year. So they're looking for the next big thing. It must be Reels, or it must be on this platform, and those guys and gals are never, ever going to be successful. This is why winners aren't losers and losers aren't winners. Josh, if he can stick to this for 10 years, when he's 26 years old, he's going to look up and he's going to say, wow, I have a multi-million-dollar asset. Is university going to do that for anybody? A college degree? Absolutely not. And he'll have the freedom to do whatever he wants. He can go to college, he can go to university, he can join the military, he can do whatever his heart desires, but he needs to continue to build his email list for the next decade. And he needs to show up every Monday with a simple newsletter that he emails to them. And that's it. And he's going to be tempted, and he's going to be told by, I call it the idiot brothers-in-laws of the world, where people that have never been in business, people on social media are going to say, oh, this is the new thing. If you're not on this, then you're a dinosaur. Or if you're not on this, then you're a caveman. I've lived that my whole life. The thing is he's going to have the discipline and the consistency to say, you know what? I'm going to say no to all that, and I'm just going to keep building my email list. I'm just going to keep building my email list from 100 people to 1,000 people to 10,000 people, and sticking to the plan as email comes in and out of style. It's not sexy, but boy, oh boy, it's got teeth. And I've built every company in my entire career, including this one in 2024, off the power of an email list. So if you've got the email today, I've included the note I got from Josh below, just to show what a 16-year-old sent me, show what coachability is, show what your teenagers should be up to, your young adults, your grandkids. And I mean, it's the honey that brings in the money, and it's the greatest asset your kids could ever build for serving other people, for making money, for building a business. It's nothing is more powerful or effective than building and growing an email list or an email newsletter list, whatever you want to call it. So with that said, I have my Email Millions program. It's $147 a month. That's chump change, because I write 4 emails per month for you. So you don't even have to write. If you can't even write a grocery list, then when you join my Email Millions program, I write your emails for you. You can almost mail them exactly as they are once a week. You can plug, you can play, you can add, you can subtract. But if you want me to write your emails for you, join emailmillions.coach below. It's $147 a month. You can stay for as long as you want. I'll teach you how to write emails. But until you're ready and have the time to do it, and maybe you never want to do it, 4 emails a month. I write 52 emails a year for you as part of that small business coaching program. And that's all it is. A bunch of entrepreneurs and small business owners, coaches, consultants, jewelry store owners, restaurant owners, real estate agents, chiropractors, and they all are slowly growing an email list, and they're emailing the list once or twice or 3 times a week, and they're gradually building their audience. They're gradually building the equity in their business, and they're gradually building something that's going to allow them, when they finally decide to walk away into the sunset, it's going to be their massive payday when they call it quits eventually. And that's something people forget. When Josh decides to call it quits in a certain industry, he's going to still be a young guy. He just sells that email list, okay, for a lot of money, plus all the money that it generated for him over the 10 years. And all of a sudden, he's on to the next thing. So that's why I'm bullish on 2024, because of great kids like Josh Peters. They're no longer the majority. I'm not selling you fantasy as reality. Most kids today are almost helpless because of the lousy generation of parenting that my generation has provided. But in special cases, like this kid, because of his parents, his grandparents, his environment, he's got what it takes. He's, like my dad says, he's got what it takes. Now it's up to him to take those abilities and those talents and focus them on one thing. In a world of distraction, in a world of noise, in a world of confusion, he's going to be tempted to do 25 things over the next 10 years. But if he focuses on this one thing, and one thing only, and everything he does leads people to his email list, this kid, mark my words, is going to be a multi-millionaire by the age of 26. How does he sell during these 10 years as his list grows? He can continue to sell his book. If you don't have a copy of his physical book or his audio book, or you can watch it on your iPad, it's on Amazon. Google Josh Peters, and it's the 13 habits to conquer your teenage years. This is one of my favorite books that I read last year. And I don't get anything out of this. I'm just saying, if I have a child, a teenager, an adult teenager, my spouse, I want this book in their hands. If I'm a teacher, if I'm a coach, if whatever. And it's the 13 ways to conquer the teenage years. He did an outstanding job with that book. You need that book. The link is below. Buy it, support a young entrepreneur. And the other thing to do is join his email list. It's free. It's the link is below as well. And that'll hold his feet to the fire, because he said, I'm going to write a newsletter every Monday. So I've joined his list. You join his list. And let's see this young man grow every week. Let's encourage this young man. Let's inspire this young man. And let's be good news merchants. Let's talk about the young entrepreneurs, the young business owners, the young people that are going to be changing this world for the better, and do a lot less of the negativity, a lot less of the rat poison. And when people ask you about being a husband or a father or an entrepreneur or an uncle or whatever it is, you tell them that, you know what? This is actually the greatest time in history to be alive. This is the greatest time. We're awash in wealth, abundance, opportunity like never before. Do you think that there was a program like Substack for emails, 30 years ago, 70 years ago when my parents were growing up? They didn't have any of these opportunities, but our kids need to take advantage of them. You need to take advantage of them. And that's what this young man is doing. And that's, like I say, if you have your shit together in 2024, as a parent, as a husband, as a kid, if you have your shit together, as a teenager like Josh Peters, it's not all going to be easy. It's going to be peaks and valleys, and there's going to be all kinds of mistakes. That's life. But if you overall have your shit together as a 16-year-old or a 20-year-old are you kidding me? This guy is going to kick ass and take names if he focuses on this one thing. The next 10 years, this journey won't be easy. It's going to take a lot of consistency. It's going to take a lot of focus. It's going to take a lot of, disciplining himself against the critics and the shiny objects. But if he can stick to this one major thing and build a massive email list, I'm telling you right now, the money will follow. That's it. The links are below to join his new email newsletter. And also do this kid a favor. Tip your hat to him and buy a copy of that book. That supports young entrepreneurs in North America. And that, my friend, is the bottom line and the reason why I am so bullish on 2024. I'm so bullish, so optimistic, and so excited about being a husband, a father, a coach, an entrepreneur, and a community volunteer, and in this case, a mentor, because of the great young people we have out there, just like Josh Peters. 2 words that changed my life, 2 words that'll change yours. Be relentless.